Welcome to the SaaS Revolution Show, a podcast by SaaStock. Here we interview SaaS founders from around the world who've been there and done that, as they share the ins and outs of how they built their businesses, their operations, their path to securing investment, and more. Our mission with the podcast is to help you, the founder, learn how to scale your SaaS, maintain your well-being, and navigate the complexities of this ever-changing industry. I'm your host, Alex Theuma, and together we'll explore the good, the bad, and the ugly in the journey to SaaS success. Welcome back to the SaaS Revolution Show. I am your host, Alex Theuma, CEO, founder of SaaStock. Delighted to be joined today by Eoin Hinchy, who is the co-founder CEO of Tines. Welcome, Eoin.
Alex, thank you for having me.
Good to have you. You wouldn't know this, but I'm throwing out a fun fact straight away. You're the third Eoin on the SaaS Revolution Show.
Wow.
I'll give you, try and guess one of the other two.
Okay, first and most important question. Do they spell their name Eoin or is it...
Yes.
They do?
They do.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
I like them already. I don't know. I give
Okay,
up.
well, there you go. I mean, it was a hard question, but I thought you might get there. Owen McCabe of Intercom.
So
Actually, I think he might spell it slightly different,
G.
doesn't he?
I would have guessed McCabe, but he's
okay,
G.
so my mistake. And then I didn't know how many pronunciations of Owen there are. And then Owen Barra from Tipple, who was on most recently, who I think is how you spell your name. But a couple of great Irish entrepreneurs there at different stages of the journey. And you, once again, even at a different stage from both of those. But welcome to the podcast, and really delighted to speak to you. I know you're in not so sunny Dublin today, and it's strange.
Correct.
We're not so far apart, but we've got some glorious weather in the UK today, which is making me want to, certainly after work, I think I might go for a little swim.
Oh.
And because I'm by the coast. But this is ahead of you, well, ahead of me coming to Dublin and thousands of others for SaaStock Europe. And you're speaking at SaaStock Europe for the first time, which we're really excited about. So really, looking forward to this conversation, Owen. And so thanks for joining us. And I'll always start off, and, we want to know our guests, a little bit better, a little bit deeper.
Sure.
So please tell me and the audience who is Eoin Hinchy.
Yeah, well, firstly, thank you for having me. So I'm Eoin, spelled Eoin. I'm the founder and CEO of Tines. Founded the company about 6 years ago now. Not your typical software company CEO. So before founding Tines, I spent about 15 years working as a cybersecurity practitioner. So I kind of spent the vast majority of my career helping to build and run cybersecurity teams at companies like eBay, PayPal, and DocuSign. And then in 2017, needed a platform like Tines, couldn't see anything that came close to it on the market. And so founded the company really to go and build a product that I wished I'd had when I was a practitioner.
Awesome. Very cool. So this is your first venture as a founder, as a CEO, but after 15 years of being in cybersecurity. And I know you're 6 years in, but how are you loving it? Or what are your thoughts about being a startup founder and CEO?
Yeah, well, I should start by saying I never had any grand ambitions of being a founder or being an entrepreneur. There's plenty of folks who have that entrepreneurial gene, who have paper rounds and mow lawns and do all that kind of stuff. That wasn't me.
Yeah.
So when I founded the company in 2017, or 2018, it was really after a lot of kind of deep thought and consideration. I really enjoyed the job that I was doing. I had a great team. I had a lot of friends. I was well compensated and respected. And I'm none of those things now. No, I'm kidding. But the way I kind of sum it up, Alex, is this is the best job I've ever had. It's extraordinarily challenging every day. It requires me to learn and grow in new and unpredictable ways. But if you had offered me this position when I started the company 6 years ago, I would have bitten your arm off for it. And I'm very aware of how privileged I am to get to lead this company and get to work with all the amazing customers and partners that we have.
Well, that's great to hear. And so let's talk about, you obviously mentioned you built this product because you wanted it, having spent 15 years in cybersecurity. So that lead us into then, and with a little bit more detail then, into that founding story of Tynes and making that leap, because I think you were in DocuSign before into Tynes.
Yeah, so I was in DocuSign, and I was running cybersecurity globally for DocuSign. I had a very, very talented team that I greatly admired. But that team was spending more and more of their time, just by the nature of the company and our growth, doing repetitive manual work over and over again. So in our world, that manual work was running down phishing emails or responding to antivirus alerts and making sure that AWS infrastructure was in compliance, those types of repetitive tasks. And it was leading to like my team getting burned out. It was leading to human error. And it was just kind of leading to these folks that we had worked really hard to hire, kind of like having low job satisfaction. And as a people manager, just that's not what we wanted to do. And frankly, it's the reason we invented computers, so people wouldn't have to do the same kind of repetitive manual work over and over again. Our kind of challenge, and what turned out to be Tynes' opportunity, was that although my team were technical, right, they were cybersecurity experts, they weren't software engineers. And so they couldn't write code to the level that we required to automate these mission critical workflows. And so in DocuSign, we carved out a bunch of budget and began looking for products that we could buy off the shelf, that we could give to my team, that would allow them automate the repetitive parts of their jobs without having to write code, and allow them to refocus on the things that they did enjoy and the things that frankly actually added true value to the business. And so, we spent 6 or so months looking for a product that we could use in this way, and couldn't find anything close, despite looking pretty much everywhere and like deploying and trying pretty much every tool we could get our hands on. And so I distinctly remember talking to my boss in DocuSign, who's a dear friend, and saying, hey, look, I think I want to go and build a product to solve for this problem. And she was like super, super supportive, maybe a bit too supportive, Alex, if you know what I mean. I probably should have read through the lines a little bit. Yeah. She was like, you know what, don't worry about finishing up today. Leave right now. No. So they were very supportive. And so I founded Tynes in February 1st, 2018 was the first day. And honestly, the mission or the North Star at that stage was nothing more glamorous or grandiose than building the product that I'd wished I'd had when I was a practitioner. So, no funding, no VC interest, really just kind of like build the product that I'd wished I'd had. Now, I was fortunate in that my background before I got involved in cybersecurity was in software engineering. And so I was lucky enough to be in a position to be able to build the product myself. And so for the first year, it was just me, bootstrapped, self-funded, writing the code, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, talking to customers, talking to prospects, leaning on people in my network to give it a try and give feedback. And then after that kind of first year, when I had a little bit of traction and we had a little bit of kind of like validation that this isn't just a problem that I had personally experienced, but it was actually something that a lot of companies had. My co-founder, Thomas, who I'd worked with for many years, joined in 2019. And then kind of things really took off. So we started to win a lot of business against big competitors. We started to win a lot of great logos. And that time that took us up then to the end of 2019 when we did our Series A. And kind of the rest is history from there. We were 5 people when COVID started. Today we're about 250. We've got offices in Dublin, where I am, Boston, San Francisco, and a presence in APAC as well. But funnily enough, we still consider ourselves to be building the product that we wished we'd had when we were practitioners.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And I think before we were recording, we just checking our facts. But you've obviously since gone on, and I think it was this year that you raised your Series B, right?
Right. Yep.
So in total, how much have you raised?
So we've raised about $115 million from kind of tier 1 VCs over a Series A and Series B rounds. We're very fortunate in that we were bootstrapped for the first couple of years, so we were always a fairly capital efficient company. And as a result, we've never been in a position where we've had to raise, and a lot of the rounds that we've done have been opportunistic. So we've got to pick the best investors that we wanted to work with and so on.
Yeah. I was going to comment on that because obviously you did mention the phrase tier one, and I've seen well, actually the only one I can remember is Axel. I'm pretty sure, but I think there are some other tier one investors there. Now I would imagine, maybe not for everybody, but when people are raising, they'd like to raise from the best of the best, and what we call the tier one. What is it that you or Tynes sort of like had that was able to attract tier one investors? Because obviously not everybody can do it.
Yeah, I know. I get asked like fundraising questions all the time because on paper it looks like I know what I'm doing when it comes to fundraising. But the reality is I'm probably not the best person to give fundraising advice because our fundraising journey is a little bit atypical. But I think what we had was deep customer love. So everything that Thomas and I did in those early days was almost all and always centered around making our customers successful. And we didn't do anything that wasn't directly related to improving the product and making our customers successful. And so when it came to fundraising and talking to investors, our customers really did all the hard work for us. So, our investors would talk to customers. The customers would tell the investors how much they loved the product, how it was solving real problems that they had, and how it was adding value. And that's really what tier one VCs are looking for, right? They're looking for a product that solves real problems, is in a big market, and they're looking for founders who are optimizing for that, right? Creating true value and customer love rather than some of the other vanity metrics that sometimes founders mistakenly fall in love with.
Awesome. Well, that's a great lesson learning there for our audience. Make the customers happy, obsess about the customers, and can't agree with that enough. And so I understand you're well past a million in ARR. Like, how long ago did you cross that mark?
So we did founder-led sales up to about $1 million in ARR. So myself and Thomas, when it was just kind of like us two in the company and a handful of others, is when we probably hit $1 million in ARR. We don't have a publicly disclosed revenue number, but we're in the tens of millions at this stage. I think when I look back on that journey from 0 to 1, it's obviously different for everybody. But we hadn't a clue what we were doing, right? We weren't salespeople, we were security practitioners, but we really deeply understood the problems that our buyers had, having lived it in first hand. And so we were able to kind of like, not bluff our way, but we were able to kind of like paper over a lot of cracks in our knowledge of sales just because we had a deep knowledge and empathy with our customers and problems.
Yeah, I think it's so important, certainly, to do that founder-led sales. I recently actually had another Irish entrepreneur on, Dee Coakley from Boundless, and she had 15 years as like more in the like COO type sort of role.
Sure.
She obviously led sales as I think, and you should, and as you did in the early days. And there was a part like in the podcast where if she rewound time. She would like to, or I think it was if she started a new business, she'd like to have like a commercial co-founder, somebody that could kind of go out there in sales. But I kind of had a conversation with her and actually thinking, well, look, despite you not having that commercial background, it was probably really beneficial for you in terms of like, getting to understand the customer, the feedback, and, coming from it from a almost non-salesy way and educating the customer, right? It can be beneficial if you don't have that sales background, right? And
I think as well, Alex, you make a great point, and I think as well it's important at that early stage to reduce the latency in terms of like feedback to as short as possible. And one of the great ways to do that is to like be on the cold face yourself. And I also think like it's worth the founders doing like pretty much every job in the company, at least for a little stage, right? Whether that's marketing, whether that's outbound prospecting, whether that's writing code, whether that's manning the booth at trade shows. Because as the company grows, you don't really have the opportunity to work in those things. And it's more difficult to build empathy for the people who are doing that on a daily basis unless you've actually done it yourself. And I know I can't tell you how many times over the years I've made a better decision as it relates to a certain part of the business because I've had to do it firsthand myself at some stage. And I knew what the problem was, and I knew how hard it was, or I was able to appreciate the challenges that these kind of new hires were experiencing because I had done it firsthand. So I think founders should almost do like every job for like a little bit just to get that experience.
Yeah, no, again, completely agree. And so you and your co-founder led sales to 1 million ARR. Now you're in the tens of millions. I'm just curious, like, how much time do you spend on sales now? Like, I don't know whether it's a percentage or hours or what does that look like?
It varies, honestly, depending on what stage of the year that we're in. I'm also like one of those kind of weird technical people who actually like really enjoys sales.
Yeah.
And I think, sales often gets a bad rep because you're picturing things like Alec Baldwin, like always be closing and so on. But I think a modern day sales team that's kind of like empathetic and is focused on adding customer value is actually a great place to work, and you can learn so much. And so I love talking to customers. I love talking to prospects. I love figuring out what the technical problems these people are having are and how we might be able to help and add value. And so I'm not by any stretch of the imagination involved in every deal that we do, but I do like to get involved in like the more strategic ones, or ones where like, I send a message to our sales team that if there's ever a time where they think I can help, to like let me know and reach out, and I'll always be more than happy to help. So I kind of let them guide me on when and where I should be involved.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for sharing. And so I want to jump into our topic for conversation, because I understand you were an AI skeptic, but now you're an advocate, and this has obviously then really informed the shape of the product roadmap at times. So tell me, like, how far back when were you an AI skeptic? I guess it's kind of only been around for a couple of years, right? And why were you?
Well, I think, you called, or you stumbled across such an important point there, which is like, it's only been around for a couple of years. Yeah. So I think Gen AI and LLMs kind of are on the scene now for like just shy of 2 years. Yeah. But it's all the other early AI stuff that are kind of like honed me into being a little bit of a skeptic. And so, remember, I was a cybersecurity practitioner for many, many years. And every product for a period felt like they claimed they had AI capabilities. And almost without exception, it was completely underwhelming, or like FUD, or didn't add value, or was snake oil, etc. And so what kind of created this skepticism in my mind around AI was all the vendors I had seen over the course of a decade who claimed they were going to change the world with their AI technology, only for it to largely fall flat on its face. What began to kind of like change my perspective was when LLMs and Gen AI began to emerge like 2 years ago. And anybody who tried that technology for 30 minutes immediately realized, oh, this is different, right? This isn't the other stuff that we've been shilled for years. There's actually a real innovation that's foundational to what's happening here. And so what began to change my mind was actually seeing and feeling and breathing that technology with my own 2 eyes. But that being said, we really struggled, although we deeply understood and appreciated how innovative this technology was, we really struggled to figure out how we could apply it to our product and to our roadmap. Because, as we mentioned earlier on, we're like incredibly customer focused and centric, and we don't really build features that we don't think will add significant value to our customers. And so we kind of struggle to understand, how can we use this technology, which has so much promise, in a way that actually adds a lot of value to our customers. And we spent, no joke, probably about 18 months working on 70 or so failed experiments to figure out how we could leverage this technology in a way that would delight our customers. And eventually we landed on something. And so seeing those features that we've released be used by our customers in a way that actually makes the product better and adds more value to them, that's really what really like kind of crystallized for me my belief that this technology is the decade's most important technology innovation.
It's super interesting to hear about all those, let's say, experiments, and again, you can classify them as failed experiments, but to land on that one that does work. can you like add any sort of like color in terms of like what it is that did work and how that kind of works for your customers?
So I think the important thing is that to remember with all this AI technology and LLMs and Gen AI and so on, it really demos incredibly well. Like you can build a Gen AI/LLM demo that is outstanding and knocks everyone's socks off. The real challenge is actually applying it in a production environment, right? And getting it so that it's robust, scalable, the unit economics makes sense, the hallucinations are small enough that they can be lived with, the use cases make sense, it's easy enough to use, etc., etc. And so that's really where a lot of our experiments kind of like fell down, was it didn't tick all those boxes. And so the technology that we did release during the summer or earlier on this year was kind of two things. One was a mechanism to allow our customers to build better workflows. And so using natural language of LLMs to be able to describe the type of data transformations that were important and necessary in our customers' workflows. And also, allow our customers to wireframe and build scaffolding around their workflows by just describing what they want. So kind of really increase the usability of the product and allow people to come up to speed much quicker. And then the second thing that was important that we released was allowing our customers to run better workflows. So build better workflows and run better workflows. And the run better workflows piece essentially revolved around this capability for our users to access a secure and private LLM at any point in their workflow. So at any point in a workflow, our customers in a secure and private way can ask an LLM what I should do next. Could you summarize this? Act as a cybersecurity expert and let me know if this code has vulnerabilities. Does this document contain any sensitive information? Is this email a scam? All those types of use cases, which were possible in times previously, but it involved a lot of third-party services. You had to jump through a lot of hoops. And so the ease of use of accessing this secure and private LLM has really transformed the way our customers are able to run their workflows.
I want to run by you just a couple of things that you may also have seen, online on the web, and sort of like opinions around AI to kind of get your opinion on this. And
sure.
One of them is probably the more obvious one, in that you see a lot that AI is going to replace the need to have like developers. And
sure.
So I welcome. What do you think around that sort of like statement? Is that something you're seeing, thinking of, planning about?
No, I think what AI will do is dramatically increase the number of people who can develop. I think, I have no idea how many software engineers we have in the world today, but my gut is that as we release more and more AI technology and there's more demand for it, we're going to need orders of magnitude more developers to build these technologies. I think the nature of the type of work that software engineers are doing today and the nature of work that software engineers are doing in 10 years' time will be like dramatically different. And we won't spend our time kind of looking up reference documentation and so on and so forth, because the LLM will do all that for us. And instead, what developers will be doing is using their like creativity to instruct the LLM or the software engineer AI to go and build the products, but in a much more efficient way.
And the other one, and I don't know if it's necessarily fair, and the data source was The Economist, but I actually haven't read the article. It flashed up when I was scrolling on TikTok or Instagram. It was an advert for the article. But it said that I think the headline, or whether The Economist does clickbait, but was saying that there's been no economic benefit, from AI, so far. Is that something that you would agree with, that statement?
It's something I spend so much time thinking about, because remember, we are now 2 years into this journey, right? 2 years. And from day one, when ChatGPT and LLMs and Gen AI came on the scene, we were told that this was going to impact absolutely every position in the world. It was going to change. It was going to add trillions of dollars, literally trillions of dollars, to the global economy. And I think that is true. I do think that will actually happen. However, the impact that it's had so far in the last 2 years has been fairly underwhelming, right? Like I can't think of many people that I know whose lives have been transformed or work lives have been transformed as a result of AI and LLMs. Maybe in very kind of vertical areas like customer support or software engineering, it has had an impact, but I wouldn't say it's been transformative, and it certainly hasn't added trillions of dollars in GDP. So when I think about that, I ask myself, like, well, why is that? Like, why has this technology, which is so much promise, failed somewhat to deliver on that promise in the last couple of years, especially in a business context? And for me, I think there's kind of like one main reason for that. And the main reason is when we talk about AI and LLMs, we're really talking about foundational models. We're talking about ChatGPT and Claude from Anthropic and Llama from Meta. And you have to remember what these models are, how they're built, what they're trained on. So they're trained on vast amounts of like data that's in the public realm. So internet, documentation, blogs, etc., etc. That information allows these AI and LMs do amazing things like write letters, write emails, write policies for my company. But it doesn't have access to real-time or proprietary data, right? They're the two big problems that it has. And so as a result, ChatGPT's most recent like data knowledge stops at like August 23 or something like that. So for businesses, when they're making decisions on real information and proprietary information. And so all this innovation that's gone into foundational models, it's not really impactful out of the box to businesses to make decisions or critically to take action, because that's another thing these LLMs can't do. They can't access real-time data and they can't take action. And so something that we spend a lot of time thinking about is this idea that the main reason that Gen AI has failed to deliver on its promise is a lack of connectivity between real-time and proprietary data and these foundational models. And so that's what we're spending a lot of time thinking about today.
Awesome. I know I need to get to reading that Economist article, so I have my own opinions as well, instead of scrolling past the advert on TikTok. I mean, I want to move into the quickest fire round now. Sure. So I'd love to know what one thing has moved the needle the most for you in your career.
This is going to sound trite, but like hard work. You know, there's really no substitute for Alex for just like putting in the hard yards, showing up every single day and just working hard.
Yep. Love that one. What about best advice you've ever received?
The best career advice I've ever received is just do your job and that little bit more. Because so few people even do their job, that if you do your job and that little bit more, you're already in the probably top 95% of people out there.
What about biggest failure you've made and lesson learned?
The biggest failure I have made and lesson learned. I'm not pausing for thought because there's none. I'm pausing for thought to like pick which of many is the most appropriate here. I think probably like the biggest failing I've made has been, although we're customer focused, not being even more customer focused. Like I think we should be spending even more time talking to our customers.
Yeah. What about hardest thing about being a CEO?
For me, it's maintaining the energy to constantly want to grow and learn. Like, you know, you have to be really hungry to like grow and learn, and things are moving so quickly. Yeah. So you kind of like have to remind yourself to keep a balance and give yourself enough space so that you're constantly charged up, energized and hungry to grow at the rate your company needs you to grow.
How do you give yourself space to do that?
I try and like engage in like my hobbies and pastimes and set myself kind of like personal goals that will force me to take time away from my computer and away from work. And so I'm running the Berlin Marathon at the end of September. And cool. that kind of goal has forced me to step away from my computer for like at least an hour a day and go for like a run. And, you know, I also spend as much time as possible with my family and like my wife and my kids, just so that I'm charged up and can work as hard as I want to.
Love that. And finally, what's your favorite book on business and why?
mine is probably like a little bit atypical. So like the book that I really like, which I go back to fairly regularly, is a book called Lost and Founder. And it's by a guy called Rand Fishkin, who previously founded a company called SEO. And it's a very kind of like personal, heart on sleeve memoir almost about this kind of guy's journey as a founder and some of the learnings that he had. And like it talks in very kind of like honest detail about having to do things like company layoffs and dealing with difficult board meetings or raising capital. It's just a really kind of honest depiction of what it's like to be a founder.
Yeah. No, it's a great one. It's been mentioned a few times.
Oh, has it? Okay. I thought I was being like a real original there.
No, yeah. I like when I say a few times. I mean, we've done 450 episodes, and it's been mentioned like 3 times. So, but I think we had it recently, and obviously it was it's a great story, and Moz was like, I don't know, it was doing so well, had such a high valuation, and ultimately wasn't the best outcome for Rand. So it's definitely he had a book in him, and glad that he did that. And so as we wrap up, Eoin, SaaStock Europe's coming 14th to the 16th October, back in Dublin for our 7th edition, and you'll be speaking for the first time. I'd love to know, I mean, I don't know if you know already because we're 7 weeks out at the moment, but what you'll be speaking about. Also, what are you looking forward to? And maybe give me or give the audience, a couple of reasons people should come to Dublin, or some fun things to do in Dublin, whatever you think.
Oh, it's such a good question. So I think the reason I'm excited is also one of the reasons that I think people should come, which is just like the quality of the speakers, present company excluded, of course. Alex, I'm a bit of an introvert. I don't typically do these types of things. It's the reason that it's one of the reasons this is my first time speaking as SaaStock, is that I don't typically do this. But honestly, the quality of speakers and the just the diversity of like voices that are going to be there was like too much of a good opportunity to not be a part of that. So I think that's the reason that I'm excited, and I think it's also the main reason that people should attend. I think one of the things, so I was born in Dublin. I've spent a lot of my life here. I think it's an incredible city to spend time in. And there's also a lot of like things that are off the beaten track that I think people should like really take in. So one of my favorite things is a walk around Killiney Hill, which is kind of like gives this view. You're quite high up on the south part of the city, and it gives you this amazing kind of sweeping view of South Dublin Bay from Dunleary all the way down to Wicklow. So if you want to kind of like get away from the hustle and bustle, and you need to walk over a hangover, or you just want to not be in a pub for a little while, it's only a short train ride out to Killiney Hill, and it's a walk that you can probably do in like a couple of hours. And it's magnificent and beautiful and nourishing, regardless of what the weather is like.
Awesome. Good tip. One that, I mean, I've not heard of it, and I should have, but I'll look to try and do that on my trips to Dublin this time, whether before or after the conference is finished. We'll see what the energy levels are. Eoin, so as we wrap up, where can people find you online if they want to reach out? They got some questions about you or Tynes. Yeah. Obviously, they can meet you in person at SaaStock in Dublin and listen to your talk. But before then, where can they find you?
So you'll find us online at tynes.com, so TINES.com. I can be found personally on like Twitter and LinkedIn and all the usual social media platforms. It's Eoin Hinchy.
Awesome. Eoin, thank you so much. Been a pleasure. Really enjoyed the conversation. Looking forward to meeting in person in Dublin, whether I've climbed the hill or not before then. But can't wait. Thank you so much, Eoin Hinchy, CEO of Tynes.
I appreciate it. See you, Alex.